This is J. Krishnamurti's second public question and answer meeting at Brockwood Park, 1973.
What shall we talk about this morning?
So, the other day we talked about how we waste energy through the mind. Could we today go into the question about the body, the balance with the body and the mind and the heart? Question about health and so on.
You only talked about the mind, but you didn't talk about the body, the heart, health, and standing on one's head.
Sir, when one observes one's mind, one notices a constant gossiping, a constant movement of thought. Is it possible at all to finish and stop this movement of thought suddenly and all at once, or has it any meaning to stop this gradually?
If one is at all aware, the mind is always chattering. And is it possible to stop it, to end it at once?
Can we talk about the real meaning of the word responsibility?
What do you mean, or shall we talk over together, the real meaning of that word responsibility?
Seeing is the action. Does thought try to get in as we are also conditioned by thought?
I didn't quite...
Seeing is the action. Does thought try to get in at all as we are also conditioned by thought?
Seeing it was said, is the doing. Can thought allow such doing? Because we are also conditioned by thought.
Sir, not to go into this question of resistance in great depth.
Could you talk about resistance, which we discussed day before yesterday? Talk about the conscious as well as the unconscious. Any more? I didn't quite get the meaning of it, sir.
That passion which we may come upon when there is the ending of effort and thought.
Could we what, sir? Could we talk about that?
May we wait for that?
Talk about it. May we talk or wait till that real thing comes upon us. Now, we've asked enough questions. Now, what shall we discuss? Shall we discuss, talk over together, putting all these questions together? The body, the mind, responsibility, the chattering of the mind, the conscious as well as the unconscious, and the seeing and the doing without the interference of thought, and so on. Now, can we put all that together and discuss it? What do you say? What is the central issue in all these questions? what do you think is the central point in all the questions that have been put?
Me as a problem, trying to find a way out of it. Trying to get outside myself.
We have problems and trying to get out of it.
The question of change,
Come on.
of change, the question of change puts all the questions together.
When you put all the questions together, the question the person says is a matter of change.
Sir, it's a matter of why are all these questions being asked, isn't it?
Where all these questions are being asked.
So it's the central point, the conflict between the observer and the observed.
Conflict between the observer and the observed.
Or is it between the observer and the observed?
Are we not curious? Curiosity, perhaps?
Are we not curious, sir? What?
The central issue is curiosity to know, to find out.
Curiosity to find out. From whom?
We don't know.
Now now there are so many questions that have been put, including the question here and the one that was put the other day about consciousness. What happens when death takes place and naturally the brain cells die? What happens to consciousness? And what is the meaning of consciousness? That was the question that was put the other day. So, putting all these questions together, I wonder what is the central issue in all this. I would say, subject to your correction, that we have many problems imposed by society or the culture in which you live, or our own individual personal problems. And we want to resolve them all, in which is included the observer and the observed, conscious and the unconscious, the interference of thought in the seeing and acting. We have all these many problems. Ill health, yoga, standing on your head. The meaning of responsibility. What is love? What happens when there is death, and so on. Now, who is going to answer all these questions? These are all our problems. Collective, personal, quite impersonal, objective, and so on. Now, who is going to answer all these questions? Suppose there was nobody to whom you can ask these questions. How would you resolve these questions and the problems that arise? That is the central issue in all this, isn't it? No, please, don't. Let us explore it. Don't say being aware, and that stops it, please. Now, first of all, we are accustomed to ask questions and somebody to give you the answers. The world is in such frightful mess. The dictator says, we have the answer. Or the politician says, we have the answer. Or the economist, or the socialist, or the religious person. Now, if you don't look to any of these people, because they have led us all up the garden, because they are responsible as well as we are for the misery, confusion, and sorrow, and starvation, and wars, and violence. If we don't look to any of these people, how will you find out? There is no authority, right? No book, no leader, no guru. How will you answer these questions? And I hope you are in that position, that you are not following anybody, that there is no authority which will say do this or don't do that. How will you set about to answer these many questions and many problems that arise in our daily life?
Sir, I've tried to look at myself, and I still find there are no answers. Should I then accept there are no answers?
Just, madam, just wait a minute. Just hold on a minute. Are you in that position when you say, I have nobody on whom I can depend for the right answer? No book, no system, and I'm left naked. And I have got to find the answer, because my life is very short. I want to live a life that's completely full, rich, and beautiful, all that, intelligent. And nobody can tell me what to do, right? Are we in that position? No. No, don't say yes or no. It's one of the most difficult things to be in that position, isn't it? So, not relying on anybody, how shall I find the answer or resolve the problems that arise every day? There isn't one series, one set of problems. Problems are always arising. Now, how shall I meet them, resolve them, and not be caught in the trap of all this? Where shall I start? You understand, sir, what I'm asking? Surely that's the only way to find out what is truth, what is a state of mind that is no problem, that is not in conflict, that is supremely sensitive, intelligent, and so on. Now, where shall I start? Come on, sir. Looking at what? Looking at the problem? Who is the creator of these problems? Where shall I look for an answer?
Hey.
Huh?
Hey, all that's good and true.
Oh, no, madam, don't say all that's good and true and noble. Let's know. Please. Look, I'm asking you a very serious question. You say, oh, look for all that is noble and true and beautiful. Keats talked about it endlessly. All the poets, the philosophers, and all the writers, intellectuals have. But That doesn't answer my question.
By seeing everything that the problem is not.
Look, sir, I personally don't read any philosophy, psychology, don't follow any guru, no authority. To me, authority is poison, either politically or religiously. And I don't read all the sacred books in India or here or in Japan or in China. They bore me. Now, where shall I start? Ekka. Just wait. Where shall I start? I say to myself, I have not confidence in myself either. Right? Because I am what the world has made me. So I can't rely on myself. I don't know if you follow this. So I say to myself, I must understand myself. Myself is the world and the world is me. And I mean that, not just words. And in understanding myself, I understand the world. The world about me, nature, the structure of human relationship, the divisions, the quarrels, the antagonisms, the wars, the violence and all that. It's all buried in me. Because I am the world. So I must start with myself, right?
If you are the world and the world is you, how can you start with yourself?
If you are the world and the world is you, how can you start with yourself? I start with what I have, sir. Shall we go on? Do please move, let's move. It's a hot morning, rather lovely. Let's get going. I know nothing about myself. I don't start with a conclusion. I am God, I am not God, I am the state, I am not the state, I am the world, I am not the world, or I am the world. I know nothing. Right? So I begin there. I know nothing. What I know is what other people have told me. Propaganda. What I know, what I am, is the result of what others have made me. Or in reaction to the world, I am. So I really don't know anything. Right? So I can begin to learn. Right? May I start that? May I go on? No, please, share together. It's not just I go on talking. As I know nothing, I begin to learn. So I must find out what it means to learn. What does it mean to learn? Not knowing anything, what does it mean to learn? I know I have to learn a language. Italian, Greek, French, or whatever it is. And I store up the words, the meaning of words, the verbs, the irregular verbs, and so on. So I know a language. I know how to ride a bicycle, drive a car, dig in the garden, or run a machine. I know all that, but actually, beyond the technological knowledge, I know absolutely nothing about myself. Can we start from there? Can you honestly say, I really don't know anything about myself? Not out of despair, not out of sense of frustration, not knowing myself, I'm going to commit suicide. You follow?
Excuse me, what do you mean by saying you know nothing about yourself?
What do you mean by saying you know nothing about myself? What I am, why I do this, why I think that, what are the motives, the impressions, you understand? I know nothing about myself except the technological knowledge, the information, the activity in that field. So I know nothing about myself. I only know what people have said to me about myself. The philosophers, the analysts, the psychoanalysts, the mothers, the fathers, the books. If I put all that aside, so I'm going to learn about myself. So before I use that word, I must find out what it means to learn.
To discover.
What does it mean to you to learn?
Be vulnerable?
What's that?
To be vulnerable?
To learn. I have learned how to ride a bicycle. I've learned how to drive a car, speak a language, run a machine or whatever it is. If I'm a bureaucrat, I've learned how to push the pencil around and so on. I know all that. What does it mean to learn?
I must be curious.
So, curiosity. I know what that word means, but will curiosity teach me what it means to learn? I want to learn about myself. So what does it mean to learn? If I learn about myself, does that learning lead to knowledge about myself? And from that knowledge I act. You following? I want to learn about myself. Learn. What does that mean? I've learned a language, ride a bicycle, and so on. Myself is a living thing, isn't it? Changing, demanding, asking, lust, anger, all that. I must learn about all that. Now, if I learn about anger, that learning can leave the residue as knowledge, right? From that knowledge, I act. Therefore, I've stopped learning. I wonder if you understand this. The aeroplane must have its voice too, so let's listen to it.
I mustn't accumulate.
So If the mind accumulates knowledge about itself, next action or next learning is from a knowledge.
I said I must not accumulate.
That's just it. So learning is a process of not learning, not accumulating knowledge. I have accumulated knowledge, how to ride a bicycle, speak a language, all that. But when I am learning about myself, any form of accumulation as knowledge about myself will prevent further learning. Is this clear, please? Huh? Because the me is a living thing, it's not a dead thing. Therefore, the mind must come to it each day, each minute afresh. Otherwise it can't learn.
But sir, if he doesn't know, then it must come to it afresh.
Do listen, sir, do listen to what first listen to what I've said. Not that you must listen to what I've said, but as I happen to talk, please listen to it. In learning myself, about myself, in that learning, if there is any form of accumulation as knowledge, as experience, then further learning is impeded by the past. Therefore, is it possible to learn without accumulation? That's very important for me to find out. Because if I am learning and if accumulation goes on, there is no learning. Because the me is a terribly living thing, very active. So the mind must be as swift, as sensitive, as subtle as the living thing. Is my mind capable of that? You're following? Please follow this step by step. You will come to it yourself.
So, when you look at something, as soon as you begin to think about it, life has gone on.
No,
And,
sir.
So,
Look, you're saying life goes on so rapidly, so quickly, so subtly, that learning is not possible. Is that it?
no, I didn't say that. I said that's the difficulty, is that as soon as one goes to think about something, that one has to be able to see something and immediately pass on without trying to think about it or grasp it in any way. That one has to sort of...
The incident or the happening takes place so rapidly that thinking about it is no good. Therefore, I must learn to observe without the previous knowledge which I have accumulated. Right? That is the act of learning. Come on, sir.
Therefore, sir, one watches carefully one's motive in action.
No, sir. We haven't come to, I want to know about myself. I have to learn about myself. What does learning mean? Until I find that out, I'm merely accumulating knowledge about myself. And that is, you have knowledge about yourself, haven't you? What the psychologists have said, what the philosophers have said, what the religious books have said, what the speaker has said. So you have knowledge of all that. And when you brush aside all that, you are left with nothing. Therefore you have to learn. And so I'm inquiring, what does it mean to learn?
Sir, everybody questions this phrase learning about. Is there a difference between learning about and learning?
Yes, sir. Learning about and learning. Is there a difference between those two? Learning about something and learning. I can't hear, madam. Spontaneous realization. I don't know what those words mean, I'm sorry. We are not spontaneous. Are we? We are so conditioned, so heavily burdened with the past, with all the knowledge, information. How can the mind be spontaneous? I wish you would.
Is not the word learning associated with accumulation?
Therefore, sir, knowing that learning is associated with accumulation of knowledge, we are trying to separate it. We can't use other words. So I'm learning about myself. Therefore, I'm not accumulating knowledge about myself. If I do, then that knowledge will prevent me from will prevent further learning about myself. It's fairly simple, sir, isn't it? Beg pardon? To learn, you have to have observation. So, how do I learn and observe? Right? Observe myself, and in the act of observation, learn. Now, what does observation mean? Can I watch myself, all the movements of myself, without any distortion, without any previous conclusion which will bring about the distortion, that I am good, that I am bad, that I am divine, that I am marvelous, that I am the most beautiful, lovely person, etc., etc., etc.
So,
Can I observe myself without any shadow of distortion?
If I don't try to change myself,
Oh, sir, please, do hold. So important. Look at it, sir. Can you look at yourself without any opinion about yourself? Beg pardon, I can't hear.
It's learning, not practicing. I mean,
Practicing is learning, not practicing, I think she's saying.
Is learning not practicing?
yes, it's learning, practicing. I mean,
Baby learns to walk, right?
just that we have to start new. We don't observe. We have to start new, like a baby. Start without anything.
Now do start now. Don't let's talk about the baby, but do start.
Yes, I know.
Do start learning now. Can I, please listen to this, can Can the mind observe its activity without prejudice? Prejudice being judgment, evaluation which has already been made, and that through those eyes I look at myself. Can I observe the movement of myself in daily life, cooking, watch, if all that, the activity of the mind, observe without any conclusion, prejudice? You say that's not possible.
So,
Do it, sir. Please, sir. Do these things. Don't. Huh?
How do you do it? You can't.
I'm showing it to you. Not how, sir.
How are you showing it to me?
I'm showing it to you. Watch your mind without prejudice. Can you watch it?
Can I watch my mind prejudicing? Can I watch that without prejudice? Are you asking?
Can you watch your mind without a judgment?
Making judgments.
Not making judgments, sir. Look, sir.
Excuse me.
Huh?
Please excuse me. I find, as I walk about here, meet this, that, and so on, there's a movement, a momentum of making judgments, prejudicing, the caress of my perception.
Yes, sir.
I can feel its quality almost, of its judgment perceptive quality. Can I observe all that without judging?
That's what I'm asking you, sir.
Yes, it's something that.
My, only. Can the mind watch its activity without any prejudice? Prejudice, conclusion, judgment, evaluation, all that, the past, can it watch? So, until it does, it is not capable of learning. Right? Right. Observation without thought. I didn't want to put it that way. Then you will go off into how am I to prevent thought from interfering?
I don't know. Isn't that what you have to consider?
What's that?
How am I to look at thought interfering without prejudice, without judging it, that thought interferes?
Now, there is nobody to answer that question. What will you do?
Squirm.
Huh? Squirm? Then squirm. But you have to answer that question. It's no good merely squirming, you have got to answer it. Life challenges you. Can't say, well, I squirm and leave it at that. Life says, answer it. You're a man, grown up.
so
What does squirm mean? You have seen a worm squirm? No, sir, please, just a minute, sir. You see, sir, it becomes really quite impossible when your mind isn't giving complete attention to something that demands attention. I want to learn about myself, not through somebody else's eyes, whether it's Christ, Buddha, or latest guru. I want to learn. Mind must learn about itself. So it must learn. It says, how am I to learn? Which means I must observe. How can I observe when there is so much prejudice? I'm bottled. I mean, there's thousands of prejudices I have. How can I observe? Then the next thing is, there is nobody to answer. How is the mind to be free of prejudice. You follow? Otherwise I can't observe, the mind can't observe, and therefore can't learn. You follow the law. So, how is the mind to be free of prejudice?
When I see something in myself I don't like, that is a thought, that's no prejudice, because it's
I am asking, madam, you have a prejudice, haven't you? All of us have some kind of prejudgment. That's what it means, prejudice, prejudging something. So how is the mind to be free of prejudice, bigotry, conclusion? How is it? Nobody is going to answer me because I've got to find out. I can't just squirm, lie under the question. I've got to answer it to myself. Life demands it. What, sir?
When you see the falseness of it,
You see the falseness of prejudice, don't you? But you're still prejudiced, aren't you?
I don't know, I try not to be.
Sir, begin only by knowing nothing.
You're not answering, sir. Answer that question for yourself, sir. How is the mind to be free of prejudice? You understand? A conclusion, an image which I have built about you. Do listen, sir. I have built an image about you because you are a Christian, I am a Hindu, or I am a communist, or you are something else. Now, how is that mind to be free of the image it has built, or the culture has built, or the society has built, which has been implanted in the mind? How is that image to be put away? It's a question, sir. You understand? Don't answer something else. The image is there. How is it to break it down, to be free of it?
Sir, that image, sir, is thought, is memory, sir. So you're asking really, can one change memory?
I am asking a simple thing, sir. Please don't make it more complicated. I have an image as being a Hindu, communist, socialist, whatever it is, Catholic. And I realize as long as that image exists, observation is not possible. Therefore, learning then becomes merely accumulation of knowledge which prevents further learning. So my question is, can the mind free itself from the image?
You become aware that it's just an image and not a reality.
Now, are you, in realizing that, are you free of the image?
If you actually see the image,
If, this is your question. It's your problem. Are you free of the image?
if you see it
No, not if.
Sir,
I come to you, sir. I say, look, my friend, I don't know how to get rid of my image. I have got so many images. Tell me what to do. And you can't answer because you don't know what to do. You say, well, let's talk about it endlessly, and I die by the end of it. My problem is I want to end it. Sir, I don't want to go. You see, can your mind be free of an image which prevents observation? Stick to that thing, not who is I. I will go into that.
I
Huh?
I am that image.
Yes, sir. Then what? You are that image. You are the image. Now, how is the mind to be free of that image which is you?
If I am that image, there is no more image.
What, sir?
There is no more image then.
What? When?
Free from that image then.
What, sir?
If I am the image, I am free from the image.
Are you? What? Sir, please. The house is burning. I must do something about it. I can't everlastingly talk about the man who put the fire, has red hair, brown hair, white skin, black skin, purple. The house is on fire. What, sir? So you accept the image. But it is there. Why do you accept it? You see how you are totally unaware, if I may most respectfully point out, totally unaware of what you are doing, how your mind is operating.
Conquering fear.
Jesus, what is that? Fear. Is fear preventing the mind from putting away the image?
Thought itself is preventing.
So what is this image? I mean, I don't know. Does anybody see this?
So I've told you what the image is. Image is a prejudice, a word, an association of words. I am a Christian, or I am a communist, I am a Catholic, I am a Protestant, I am a follower of some guru. Those are all images.
So, but the idea that there's something to see gets in the way of seeing it. You know, if I say I'm going to see how you talk about, say, being a Christian, for instance. Now, if I go to observe myself as a Christian, that very idea to see something will stop me seeing it.
No, sir. No, sir.
The idea that there's anything to see gets in the way of seeing.
No. I am a Hindu, a Catholic, communist. That's an image, a verbal series of conclusions, ideologies, dogmatic, and so on. Those are the images that I have built by words. Now I'm asking, can the mind free itself from that, so that it observes without any distortion? Otherwise I can't learn.
When I see prejudice, a specific prejudice,
Beg your pardon?
when I see a prejudice, the only way I can work with it is to go on seeing it, not trying to change it, because that's another prejudice. But to go on seeing it and then
Now do you see your prejudice? Is the mind aware of the prejudice it has? Huh? Huh?
And that's the difficulty, because I don't see that the particular knowledge, I see the knowledge that somebody else has as prejudice, but the knowledge I have about myself...
I'm talking about yourself, not
Yes,
somebody else.
Right. Now, I don't see the distinction. Some knowledge I have about myself, I have in a sort of a tentative way, not sort of as a formed, solid thing. I've just observed certain things, like a scientist, not building it into a dogma about it. Is there a difference, or is all knowledge such prejudice?
Sir, we have explained, sir, all knowledge is not prejudice. Right? Learning by
myself, I mean, knowledge about...
That we must learning about how to ride a bicycle, drive a car is not prejudice.
No,
It's a function which I learn. But here I am learning about myself, not from what others have said about me, or through others. The mind discards all that. Says I want to learn about itself. Now to learn is to observe. Now, can it observe without any shadow? Just, yes, sir. I haven't heard it, sir. Sorry. No, no. I am asking you, not asking you, sir. We are questioning or asking whether the mind can observe its conditioning. What, sir? Observe it, sir. Look, I've been brought up as a Brahmin in India, and I say I am that. That is a deep-rooted prejudice brought about historically, culturally, and tradition says I am that. That is my conditioning. Is it possible for the mind to be aware of that conditioning? Just only that, no more. When it is aware of that conditioning, what takes place?
It recognizes that it is conditioned.
It's no longer conditioned.
Are you saying this as an actuality or a verbal statement?
Well, I see that with prejudice, for instance.
Now, sir, you are brought up as a Christian, right?
Yes.
Yes. Now, are you aware of that conditioning?
Yes.
Now, next step.
That's why I'm here.
Wait, sir, just a minute, sir. When you are aware of that, are you trying to overcome it, change it, control it, or break through it? Or you merely aware of it?
I'm just aware.
Now, what takes place then?
I become free from
No,
it.
wait. Either you are or you are not. You can't say I become.
I am.
No, not what I like, sir. Not what I like, please. It isn't a game of what you and I like. The mind becomes aware that it is a Christian, communist, a Hindu, a Brahmin, and so on. That is its conditioning. In becoming aware of that conditioning, what takes place? No. So I have to find out what I mean by aware, what I mean by observing that conditioning. Is the observer different from the conditioning? You understand my question? I am aware, the mind is aware or observes, it is conditioned. Is the observer different from the conditioning? What do you say? There's nobody to answer you. How will you find out? Is the thinker different from the thought, from the conditioning, or the thinker is the thought and the conditioning?
Do you realize your conditioning when you see that it's just
No,
part of your
yes, sir,
mind?
I understand. I'm asking a little more. We are asking, when you observe, when you say, well, I am conditioned, is the I who says I am conditioned different from the conditioning?
No, it's all,
It's certainly not.
it's all in the mind,
The observer is the observed. Now wait a minute, stay there for a few minutes. The observer is the observed. Then what takes place?
And I've learned what that thing is.
Then I have learned, you are saying, what actually is. Is there a learning about what is? I must stick to this one thing, sir. Sorry. If the observer is the observed, right? We see that. That is, the conditioning and the observer who watches that conditioning are both the same. Both are conditioned. That means there is no division between the observer and the observed. Wait a minute, sir. Which means there is no division between the experiencer and the experience. No division between the thinker and the thought. They are one. Right? Then what takes place? Take time, go slow. When there is a division between the observer and the observed, there is conflict, right? Trying to overcome it, trying to change it, trying to control it, and so on and so on. Now when the observer is the observed, there is no control, there is no suppression, there is no overcoming it. There is only this actually what is. Only the observer is the observed. The image is the observer. Right? Now, what takes place?
Duality comes to an end.
So when we say duality has come to an end, when you say observer is the observed, duality exists, and the expression of that duality is conflict. When there is no conflict between the observer and the observed, what takes place? Nobody is there to tell you. You follow, sir?
Immediate action.
And with me, go slowly. What takes place?
See it that moment because I'm not different from what I'm looking at.
Therefore, what happens? What? Yes, sir, we said that. When the observer is the observed, conflict ceases, which is the greatest thing, isn't it? Huh? You don't see. Conflict ceases. No, has conflict ceased with you? When you realize the observer is the observed? Until that conflict ceases, you don't see the reality that the observer is the observed. It's just words then. The moment you see that, the reality of it, conflict has come to an end. The me and not the me. The me is the you follow? So, what takes place when there is no conflict, which means the observer is the observed. Have you ever meditated? I see several of you sitting under the various trees. In a great attention. Have you ever meditated? This is meditation, you understand, sir? This is the greatest meditation, to come upon this extraordinary thing, which is to discover for oneself, for the mind to discover for itself, the observer is the observed. Therefore, no conflict, which means not vegetation, just, you follow? Just doing nothing. On the contrary. So what? I have to find the answer. What takes place when the mind realizes the image and the observer of that image are the same? And it has come to that point because it has investigated. You understand? It hasn't just said, that is so. It has gone into itself. It says, the learning, observing, to observe there must be no prejudice. Prejudice is an image. Is that image different from the observer? All that is an inquiry. Inquiry in which there is attention. Therefore, that inquiry brings about the realization that the observer is the observed. And therefore, the mind is tremendously alive. You understand? It isn't dead mind. It is an original, unspoilt mind. So, then, what takes place? You understand? It realizes the word Hindu and the maker of that word are the same. So the image, the conditioning is it there? And don't say no or yes. Is it there? The mind is conditioned as a Catholic. When the mind says, I am Catholic, the I is different from that which has been called Catholic. It is its conditioning. The observer says, I am different from my conditioning. And then he battles because he says, I must control, I must be generous, I must be peaceful, I mustn't kill, but I will kill when necessary, but I won't kill when, and so on, so on, so on. It plays a game with itself all the time. So, when the observer realizes he is not different from the thing which he sees, that is the conditioning, therefore the whole thing is conditioned. You understand? The whole structure is conditioned. Then what takes place? Has it disappeared with you, madam? Don't say things that you don't know.
Get afraid of the consequences.
So, no, what takes place? We'll come to that. What takes place? You understand, sir? When there is an image, a prejudice, a conclusion, there is activity, right? I'm a Christian. I must resist everybody who is not a Christian. I'm a communist. I will convert everybody to my ideology, that is socialism, etc. There is activity going on, right? Isn't there? Come on, sir. The activity of the observer trying to convince others or proselytize or threaten and all that to become this. When the observer is the observed, all such activity ceases, doesn't it? No? So what takes place? There's complete immobility, isn't there? Oh, you don't see the beauty of this. What? Immediately put into words.
Peace.
My darling sir. Say those words.
So
You understand, sir? Watch it, sir. The mind, when it is prejudiced, is in movement. Right? I am prejudiced against you because you hurt me. I resist. That's a movement. The image which I built about you is the movement of a prejudice against you. I am a Protestant, I am a communist, and my education is to convince, is to resist, is to bring everybody to that. So having an image indicates a movement. Right? Movement from this to that, or from there to this, change this to that. Thesis and antithesis, and produce synthesis. It's a constant movement of the image, the word, the conclusion. So when the mind realizes, sees, the observer is the observed, sees, not just verbally accepts some idiotic idea, but actually realizes it in its guts, blood, heart, mind. It sees that it is no division. Therefore, this movement of the mind comes to an end, right? The movement of the conditioning comes to an end. I wonder if you see this. Just hold a minute, sir. I want to finish this and then you'll get it. So there is complete immobility of the mind, which doesn't mean it's a dead mind. It doesn't mean a mind that has gone to sleep. It's a mind that's tremendously alive. It is alive because it's not moving in conditioned areas. I wonder if you get that. So what takes place when there's complete non-movement? Vipon, madam? Je n'ai pas compris. I'm sorry I haven't heard. Madam, we have been through all that. Please don't go back to something. Look, sir, what has taken place.
Silence should take place.
Yes, sir. Don't use, unless is a real thing, don't use words. Then one plays hypocrite. One says things one doesn't know.
Well, I just felt that.
Yes, sir. I'm not accusing you, sir. Just see. Look, sir, it's really most extraordinary thing one has discovered. If you have come upon it, that is, all movement is time. And time is thought. Thought is conditioned. And when thought operates, can only operate within the area, within the field of that conditioning. I am Catholic, Protestant, Communist, Socialist, right wing, left wing, or center. I'm a Buddhist, I am nothing, or I must be something. All that is within the area of the known, the movement is in time. Is time. Movement is time. Now when the observer is the observed, there is no movement at all. There is only the observed. And when there is no movement at all about the observed, what has happened? There is no movement. There's no chattering. No movement from the unconscious to the conscious. No movement at all. Therefore the mind sees, has the energy to look at what is. When there is a movement away from what is, there is desire to change it, transform it, control it. When there is no movement at all, it has this extraordinary energy to observe what is. And what is there? Another series of words. I don't know if you see. Right, how you... What's up? I'll show you. You see, the speaker is going into it. You are not. It isn't an actuality to you. It is just a verbal acceptance. You don't say, well, I'm going to look at this, put my energy into this. I'm dedicated. I want to find out. And you can only find out when you have totally discarded everything what others have said.
That seems to be so difficult. There seems to be such battle of words going on in your mind.
That's what I'm saying. You have got, please, unless you do this, you cannot learn. You will repeat what others have said, which you are doing. And what others have said may be utterly silly, may be true or may be false. You don't know. Others have no meaning in this. They have meaning when the doctor says, from his knowledge, take this pill or you have got cancer, you have got to do something. That's different. But here, I know nothing, I have to learn. Learning means to observe. There is no observation when there is the movement of the image. You see the beauty of it, sir? Movement of the image, which means the conditioning. The movement of the conditioning. And that movement of the conditioning is time. And thought is time. So, thought divides itself as the observer and the observed. And the conflict. And this is the movement of our culture, of our religious activity. The conflict between what is and what should be, between the observer and the observed. But when there is the realization that the observer is the observed, then the movement of the conditioning comes to an end. Because there is no movement. You understand? Therefore, such a mind has come to it through meditation, inquiry, so looking, asking itself, not to anybody else. It has to stand completely alone. Which doesn't mean isolated. Sitting, becoming a hermit. On the contrary, you must empty. The mind empties everything of its conditioning. Therefore, no movement of conditioning. Therefore, no movement of time. Then there is no what is. There is only something entirely different.
Sir, all of this sounds so dreamy to me because I can't do anything but pay lip service to you. I'm following you, attempting.
Then don't pay lip service.
I can't get beyond observer and observed as a...
Then take time. Go into it. Sir, you don't say that when you are hungry. When you are lustful, you don't say, well,
I tell myself that too.
No, you don't. When the house is burning, you want to act. And you act when you are in pain, when you have a toothache. When you have got some disease, you don't say, well, play around.
action without the I, without the self, then we're coming upon what you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
That in that state there is a possibility of love,
Yes, sir.
where the self is not.
Of course, sir. But now, wait, sir. How is the self to come to an end? You say that self is not.
Well, what I was going to say, sir, there are moments in people's lives,
When the self is not.
yes,
But that's not good enough. There are moments when I'm healthy. I say that's not good enough.
but in those moments, which may be more than moments, maybe days,
A year, half a year.
and in those days, there is love.
Yes, sir.
And this is what you're talking about, permanent.
Nope. The moment you use the word permanent, that means time.
But this is what you're trying
And
to
in,
make.
sir, sir, please. Of course, what I'm talking about is the ending of the self. The ending of the self is the movement. No, the self is the movement of the image, of the environment, which has conditioned that self. Now, the ending of the self is important. How is it to be done?
Well, it can be done by what you're talking about, but it can also be done maybe a limited time when something comes in your way and the self is not.
Yes, sir, I understand that very well. We've all had those moments when the self is not. Those are rare and happy, like marvelous day, without a shadow, lovely. But those days are rare. They are like English weather. But what am I to do? I can't wait for those days, nor remember those days and live on the past.
Nor can we keep coming to your conventions and listening and repeating in a parrot fashion.
Oh, that's silly. That is silly. But for a man who is very serious, and it is important to find out how to end this movement of the self. What am I to do? Is the self different from the action, or the self is the action? So that is what implies. So, first thing is never to repeat what I am not seen. When you use the word silence, either there is silence or you're talking about silence. So don't, if I may say, don't repeat something that you actually have not seen, not experienced. There's a vast difference between seeing and experiencing. Yes, sir.
So, these moments of clarity that you say that all of us had and do get, it seems that they, when you talk about the observer and the observed, that is one. Now, one finds that this happens in a particular fragmented issue. Say, I'm jealous. And I can be the jealousy, and the jealousy disappears. There's this build-up of energy, etc. But I walk out and somebody insults me and I'm hurt, which means that there was a overcoming or a dissolving of the one. But it seems as though, how does one, be conscious of the entire content of one's consciousness?
That's just it, sir.
That's the question.
That's just it. What time is it, sir? Madis. I think we better. Sorry, it's time to stop. 10:50. Perhaps we can take up this question on Saturday morning. That is what does it mean to be whole? What does it mean to have this feeling of totality? You follow? This feeling of complete non-fragmentation. I'm all right in the tent, but when I go out, I'm hurt. I'm all right in the church. When I leave the church, I hate people. I'm all right as long as I've got my image, my bigotry, and I hold on, it's everything. But to be free of all that, to have a feeling of the whole, right? Perhaps we'll discuss that on Saturday, sir.